What's up, everybody? We're back at it here for another Lori Vallow update. It has been a wild ride in this trial already. A lot of what we expected, a lot of what we kind of already knew. But what's interesting in these cases, and sometimes this happens in my case, even when I sit down for a deposition on some people that have interesting things to say or interesting life experiences, where I always wonder, how did we get here? How does someone actually believe this? How are they caught up in this situation? And I feel like there is so much of that in this trial. And I think that we're getting to hear from some of these people. I'm going to mispronounce some of their names. Zeluma Pastenis, Alex Cox's wife, Lori Vallow's sister, or Lori Vallow's brother's wife, Melanie Gibb, and then Duncan is kind of where we're going to focus a lot of today's video, because this case and the motive behind this case has so much to do with religious cult behavior and teachings and what happens in those situations, that I think these pieces or parts of the testimony are really a look into how we got here and how this stuff happens. If you guys haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We hit 218,000. We are on our way to 250K, which is going to be really fun when we get there. Hit that like button if you haven't already. A lot of you have been here for the Lori Vallow recaps. Again, Nate Eaton is doing a bunch of recaps. East Idaho News is posting the audio. That's where I'm hearing most of the audio that I'm listening to. So a shout out to them. They're doing a great job with it. It's not something I listen to every single day. I listen to it kind of in chunks when I have time. And it's all tracking in the direction that I expected. I knew that this was going to be a difficult case for the defense, and that's exactly what it has been thus far. The state is methodically going through this story, methodically giving us a motive and explaining how even good people can turn bad or turn evil or be influenced. And as we listen to the testimony, there are decisions we're going to have to make as a jury. I say we're not actually the jury, but the jury here, we are going to have to make, and that is, what is Lori Vallow's involvement? It seems like the state is conceding that she did not commit the actual physical acts charged in the indictment, but that she was a conspirator, an encourager, a planner, and took part in the outcome of what happened in this case. So, yes, Valerie, I did see that, and that is on the agenda this week. Courtney Clenny getting sued. But the Stalk and Vallow trials are happening right now, so I'm trying to prioritize those. A lot of you guys are interested in those right now as it's happening. We did Stalk yesterday. We'll do probably another one later this week. So let's talk about first Alex Cox. His wife, Zeluma, is not just in this story because she's his wife. She is somebody that was under the influence of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell for some time. She attended meetings with Melanie Gibbs and Lori Vallow and talked about how Charles Vallow and Tammy Daybell had dark spirits and demons in them. She confirmed, because again, there's a bunch of text messages. We're going to hear some of these text messages and emails together. And she confirmed that when we hear demon names like Hiplos and Ned, they are talking about Charles. And when we hear Viola, they are talking about Tammy Daybell. And it's good to have someone on the inside tell us for certain that is who we are talking about. So there is no confusion, because obviously Charles Vallow's name is Charles Vallow. It's not Ned. But when they talk about getting rid of Ned, we know now because of Zeluma who they are talking about. We also hear about how 7-Eleven is a big, gosh, so many bad jokes went through my head when I just was saying this to myself now. Lori Vallow, it was her favorite number. She had some connection with it. And that's when Charles Vallow died on July 11th. before they moved. It wasn't just Charles Vallow and Tammy Daybell that had dark spirits, but Tylee had dark spirits, and JJ was being attacked by evil spirits, and she needed to set them free. She was able to actually testify to this. Zaluma also talked to Alex Cox before he passed. And Alex Cox, first off, she married Alex Cox on December 1st of 2019. He died December 12th. Well, on December 11th, he was complaining that Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow stopped responding to his texts, and he was worried about being their fall guy. Literally 1 day before he passed away. And again, they are not charged with anything in connection with his death, Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. So there's no accusation there, but the state did a great job of giving the timeline and explaining right after he was worried about being the fall guy for the defendants that are charged with this conspiracy are now, he dies a day later. So regardless of if they're being charged with it, that jury has got to have an eyebrow raised. She talked about how she confronted Alex when she heard that something was going on with AJ and Tylee, and how there were issues there. And of course, most of the witnesses now want to sound like the good guy and that they want to do something and they were trying to find answers. But in reality, at the time, I don't know if they were brainwashed or if they were getting in on the activity or whatever it may have been. But at the time, it does not seem like they did what they should have done to protect Charles Vallow, Tammy Daybell, Tylee, and JJ from Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. The night that Tammy was shot at, and people believe that it was Alex Cox, was the same night that Zaluma and Lori and other people were doing castings on her, trying to get out Viola the demon. And that same night, Lori called somebody a moron or an idiot on the phone, and that he can never get the job done right. There's some inference that she's speaking about or to Alex Cox. So that's always interesting whenever we get those kind of connections, because Alex Cox is in this conspiracy as well with Vallow and Daybell. Melanie Gibbs, which I thought was incredibly damning testimony. Vallow's ex-friend involved in all of the religious stuff with her. Feels like she got duped kind of by Vallow and Daybell. Feels like Vallow kind of got duped by Daybell, which I think is an interesting thing for us to think about. Like, is Lori Vallow a victim in all this? Did Chad Daybell control her? And then did he actually commit the crimes with Alex Cox? I think that's something to at least think about. I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm just saying I think it's something we need to consider and something we need to talk through as a possibility. And if I was Lori's lawyers and I felt like that's what happened, that is an angle and an argument I would make. She talked about, again, the dark entities and how they would rate people and what people's ratings were in light and darkness, and how Tammy was getting weaker and her heart was failing. Yet nothing was really wrong with her, but that's what Chad Daybell told to her. There were some recordings where she said to Lori that, what you're doing is not Christ-like or not appropriate or not what we're supposed to be like. And Lori said, it'll be fine. And there were some very hard to hear quotes, again, from Lori Vallow's own mouth. You can convict these criminal defendants with their own words, and we're going to hear more about them later. Zulema, somebody's telling me I might be saying it wrong. Sorry. But when she said that JJ was happy and safe, that he's fine, that he is safe, and she knows exactly where he is, and we all know now that he was not happy, he was not safe, he was not fine. And to me, that consciousness of guilt and knowing what was going on. Now, unless we hear that that's actually not true and Lori Vallow did not know at the time. If the defense can prove that she didn't know what was going on, she was trusting Chad, she thought, he was taking care of them or something. But as it sits right now, it sure seems like she knew what was going on and still said they were safe and happy and was not looking for them. There was also some discussion about how She didn't want to take care of JJ, couldn't take care of him. He was too difficult. She wanted Kay to take care of him, all going towards that theme that we heard in opening, which I think the state hit a home run with the theme, and they have just continued to double and triple down and hammer home the theme of this case, that these are roadblocks in Lori Vallow's life that she wanted to get rid of. She wanted to get the money, and she wanted to live her life without anybody holding her down with Chad Daybell, basically. That's the really important part. Okay. So now I am going to pull up the video here so we can listen to. So Officer Duncan testified. Again, there was some very weird religious culty stuff. I was going to play it, and then I kind of decided not to after listening to it again, about, the weird patriarchal blessing that Chad Daybell gave to Alex Cox, telling him he's a warrior and he's going to have to go to the depths before he can reach the heights. And how he has to do things other people wouldn't do, but he'll be blessed for it later. All sorts of illustrations and signs that Alex Cox was doing bad things for them. And Duncan testified that, Chad Daybell wasn't even supposed to be giving blessings like this because he didn't have that right position in the church, which to me, again, points to what happens a lot of times with cults or, cast-offs or rogue religions, where it starts out, in some kind of structured religion, and then it takes a right turn when people start to just use it for their own benefit and tries to, use it for money or power or whatever it is, which, that is not abnormal for religions or cults or people to do. So, I think that it's not too far-fetched that potentially that's exactly what Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow did, reverting back to the Last Kingdom and Uhtred. And you see how the church was portrayed in that and back in the day, with the money and the power and what they could do and how they could affect people, all throughout that series was interesting as well. Then there's a weird video or a weird recording of Daybell calling a funeral home right after Charles Vallow died, making up fake names, saying he wanted to cremate his uncle. How much does it cost? Maybe getting information of how to get rid of bodies. Maybe he used it with Tammy Daybell. Obviously he didn't because they exhumed her body. But, very weird, just showing that they're conniving and they're willing to lie and they're willing to do it. And they didn't even care after Charles Vallow died. I think the state is just doing such a great job about just setting it up one by one, showing the similarities with Tammy and Charles and JJ and Tylee, and showing how this was their MO. And this is how they dealt with it before. This is how they dealt with it during, and this is how they dealt with it after. Before, there were these castings and these dark spirits and these evil spirits, and they had to get rid of them. During, Alex Cox, or there were things happening right then, or they knew it was going to happen, then they acted surprised when it happened. And then after, they were perfectly fine. They were celebrating. They were calling funeral homes, making up stories. They were going to Hawaii. They were getting married. They were meeting with each other. And they're showing the same MO throughout all the lives of family members around them that were affected by their decisions and their bad acts. And I got to be honest, I am watching this movie or listening to this movie and tracking with the state completely. That doesn't always happen, as you guys know. Sometimes you guys get mad and say I have a bias toward the defense. Well, in this case, the state has me tracking with them, and I find myself going like this. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not good. Okay. Makes total sense. Yeah, if she wasn't involved, I don't think she would have been acting like this. Oh, that's cryptic. I bet I know what she's thinking there. They have me tracking with them. Absolutely. And that is their job, and that's what they're supposed to do. Okay, so I am going to play some of the, as they say, bombshell text messages and emails between Charles, Lori, and Chad. And we are going to listen to them together and talk about, and I want to hear from you guys. What do you think? Do you think that getting these text messages and emails from Vallow and Daybell themselves, how guilty does this make them look? That is the question. And it kind of starts out, the detective explained a little bit in the beginning how Charles Vallow wrote some email to Chad Daybell about helping him write his book and how he would pay to have him come down. And it turns out it wasn't Charles Vallow that wrote that. So he started to get suspicious and find out that something happened here and maybe she's cheating and maybe this is going on behind his back. So that's kind of where we pick up, and we're going to skip through and listen to some of these text messages and emails here.
51 on June 29th, 2019. It says, "Is he with whom you're having an affair? He did not stay with us in Arizona in November. Who are you lying to now? Trying to destroy another family? You're evil, period. I may take JJ back to Houston unless you have a great explanation for all of this. I will not let him be a party to your apostasy." Charles Tallori again at 6:04 a.m. "Just so you know, I have Tammy's, Chad's wife's, email address. I will send a copy of my email you sent to KK Walker. Tammy will know what you're up to. You better explain."
So again, this is, shortly before he passes, there's already something going on with Chad and Lori. He's threatening to tell Tammy. He's threatening to take JJ. Seems like that wasn't much of a threat. I wish honestly, if I could look back in this, the saddest part is I wish Lori would have just let Charles go, let him leave, and let him take JJ and move on with her life with Chad Daybell. And let Chad leave Tammy and just go that way. Ruin each other's lives. That sounds kind of bad. It sounds like I've convicted them already, but I am still listening. But this is their own words. And I kind of wish they would have just left together and let Charles take JJ and just move on. But unfortunately, that's not the way Lori and Chad seem to have saw it, but we'll see, allegedly.
Charles Tallori at 6:10. "I now have Tammy Daybell's cell number. I'll text her a copy of the letter and an explanation of what you're up to. You have till noon your time to explain, or I'm sending via text and email to her." At 6:55, Charles sends Lori a message. "I'm sure you are up by now. You have until 10 a.m. your time to respond, or I send the emails and texts to Tammy." Charles to Lori at 12:23 p.m. "Just so you and Chad know, I am going to talk to Tammy. In person if I have to. I've already emailed and texted her. Your game is up." Charles to Lori at 5:04 p.m. "Please stop spending money on the credit cards. I appreciate it."
And that's important because, again, and we'll hear more about money in a minute, but one of the things the state said and one of the motives was spending other people's money, basically. She's spending Charles Vallow's money. They're married, so technically it's her money too, but he asks her to stop. And we're going to hear from some other money that she thinks is coming from Charles Vallow that doesn't.
I was in looking at Charles's phone extractions, I was able to determine that 2 emails were sent to Tammy Daybell, one to her personal email and also one to her work email.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm having trouble hearing counsel. She just move the mic a little bit closer.
I had actually muted it, so I apologize. Thank you for saying that. Looking at that next page there, are those the emails that you were referring to?
Yes, they are.
And would you read those into the record?
The email from Charles Vallow to Tammy Daybell at the tdaybell@sugarsalem.com would be her work email on June 29, 2019 at 9:16. "Tammy, my name is Charles Vallow. I have some vital and disturbing information regarding your husband and my wife, Lori. This is your work email, so I'll wait to send you the evidence that is very disturbing. You may call or email me from the address where you can receive the information. I apologize to be the one sending this, but something has to be done. I feel it's best if I shed some light on this issue. Regards, Charles Vallow." And he provides the phone number of 714.
So again, he does reach out to Tammy Daybell. He does tell her what's going on, and he is basically spoiling whatever plan potentially Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow had, which maybe is why she didn't just let him leave with JJ. All right, I skipped ahead a little bit to get to some more text messages.
Looking at that next page, did you also locate those messages on Charles' device?
We did, yes.
And can you read those messages?
This would be the July 11, 2019, shortly before the murder of Charles Vallow. At between 7:35 and 7:37 in the morning, Charles sent Adam Cox a message that says, "Al is here." Adam responded, "At Lori's." Adam then states, "Really? I wonder why he never called me back." Adam said, "They are planning something." Charles responded, "Absolutely." Adam then responds, "I was supposed to spend the night at his house last night. She probably blocked that." And then Charles responded, "What you do is up to you."
After that message, are there any other messages from Charles to anyone?
After that message, there are no other messages. There are messages sent to the phone, but nothing was.
So after he says they're planning something, I'm worried, he knows And those are the last messages, which we know can say and mean a lot from the Murdoch case. And then we know what happens. And most of us know what happened with the self-defense claim. Alex Cox, Lori's brother, comes in, ends up ending Charles Vallow's life, says he does it in self-defense, and that's kind of where it goes until all this comes up, and now they realize, or they have charged a conspiracy with Lori, Chad, and Alex Cox. And I listen, I'm listening to evidence here, okay? Days and days and days of evidence. So it's okay if I feel like the state's starting to build a case and starting to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. This is not some pretrial motion that we're not knowing what's coming into evidence. This is stuff in evidence for us to consider. And I am considering it. And it is not good for them.
It was read by Charles at that point.
And those messages took place on July 11th, 2019, between 7:35 a.m. and 7:37 a.m.
Correct. And in addition, Charles' phone had his location services on, and the
Your
location.
Honor, I'm going to object. This is non-responsive to the question. He's adding. Thank you.
Were you able to determine anything else from Charles Vallow's phone?
Yes.
And what was that?
Charles had his location services on, and the location of that device at the time those messages were sent was at the 5531 South Four Peaks Place in Chandler, where the homicide took place.
Your Honor, I would next go to what has been marked as State's Exhibit 48. And I believe both counsel and the court have a copy.
I'm going to jump ahead a little bit.
Those numbers.
The phone numbers are 808-755-5452 or
Individual.
4652.
iCloud account. Were you able?
Yes,
And looking at that second page, do you recognize those messages?
I do.
And could you read those, including the dates, into the record?
On 3/9 of 2019, Lori sent Alex a message. It says, apparently it is tied to Ned being gone, hopefully today or tomorrow. The following day, 3/10/2019, Alex sent Lori a message. Love you too. Have fun and get rid of Ned already. 3/26/2019.
So again, we know who Ned is because of Zaluma's testimony. And they're saying we need to get rid of Ned already. And they think it's almost like like our children who make up their own language. I don't know if any of you did this in school or any of you have kids. I think they're funny and they make up their own language and they talk with their friends. What do we used to call it? Where you would like say stuff backwards. Or like you'd say the end of the word first and then the beginning of the word, whatever that's called, Pig Latin or something. The way that they talk in text messages and to each other and on the phone and to recordings and the way their friends testify. Again, this is something like is surreal to me that when you hear, Pig Latin, when you hear people talking, it's like, well, do you think you're tricking somebody? Like, do you really think that you're tricking somebody by calling him Ned? Like, come on, this is not a game, man. And it's like, I'm glad that they have these people testifying, and people may be upset about immunity or not prosecuting certain people, but it's pretty clear by this testimony and these text messages who was controlling and pulling the strings. And again, it's not Chad Daybell's trial, so I will wait for Chad Daybell's trial, but it seems like everybody looked up to him as the like spiritual leader. But Lori Vallow was definitely involved in the decision-making and ordering her brother around and calling him an idiot or can't get it done, or, Ned and these spirits and whatever their names are. She's definitely involved.
18, Alex sends Lori a message. Ned is still alive. Just confirmed. Lori responded on the same
Ned is still alive. Just confirmed.
day to Alex. It's not Ned, and it's a new one.
Through your investigation, were you able to determine who Ned was that they were referring to?
So at the beginning of this investigation, or in the following weeks, I apologize, the following weeks, we were informed that Charles was possibly murdered as a result of being a dark spirit or a zombie. We did receive information that through Charles's contacts and conversations with especially Lori, he mentioned that she would refer to him as Ned or Garrett. So those were names through the investigation.
So where is this? Isn't Ned the demon's name? Yes, but then there was also another name. What is it? Hiplosa or something? Yeah, Hiplos, I think, was the other name. So there's like more demons, I guess, coming.
Found out that Charles was being referred to, or the spirit in Charles was being referred to.
Did you also locate some messages between Lori and some other women on the date of Tammy's death?
I did.
And looking at that next slide, do you recognize those messages?
Yes, I do.
And could you?
And then they go into a bunch of messages that I already mentioned about how, somebody would tell Lori that Tammy died and she would act shocked. And then later, that Vicky, the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints is not a cult. I do not think that these teachings, I could be wrong. Okay. I'm not an expert. I do not think that these teachings that Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow are discussing and the evil spirits that need to be killed, including in children, is anywhere in the teachings of the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. So I just want to make that clear. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the LDS church. So if I appreciate this message, because if that's what it sounded like off the jump when I was talking about cults, that's not at all what I meant. What I meant was what they are doing. And like I said, you can start in some form of religion or some structured religion like the LDS, and then you take a right turn and you use it for your own gain and power and money and getting rid of obstacles and stealing their Social Security or their life insurance. That's what I meant. So, Vicky, I appreciate this comment. If anybody else was thinking that, I want to make sure that I was clear on what I said. And if people want to think every religion is a cult, okay, that's fine. Whatever. I don't want to get into that debate. But I'm just saying, whatever they were doing, I don't think there's any structured religion that's going to get behind it and say, yes, this is what we teach. I could be wrong about that, but that's how I feel right now. Okay. So just want to make sure that that was clear.
Indicate who those messages
Oh,
were
sorry.
between.
So I was saying a bunch of people texted her, said that Tammy died. She acted surprised every time. When somebody would text her a year or an hour later, she would still act surprised and act like she didn't know. And again, not a big deal. And none of those people probably thought it was weird at the time. But when we look at it now, it does seem eerily suspicious that she keeps acting like she didn't know or is surprised and things like that. All right, let's jump to the next section here. I'm trying to give just like the ones that I think are really interesting and proving some very damning words when they're coming out of your own mouth as a criminal defendant.
Lori to Chad. I just got the letter from the insurance company saying that I am not the beneficiary. It's a spear through my heart. Who do you think he changed it to? Brandon or probably Kay? He left nothing for JJ. Chad.
Now they are talking about Charles Vallow's life insurance, which Lori Vallow thought she was the beneficiary on. And I will just tell you, a tale as old as time, a motive as old as time, killing somebody when you think you are the beneficiary of their life insurance. Now, we didn't have this in Murdoch, which is why I thought it was so interesting and, went kind of to the lack of motive. But anytime we do have it, that is a ding, 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 light bulb goes off motive. And we have it here, not just once, but twice when we get to Tammy Daybell. But the fact that they're having these conversations about how Charles Vallow changed the life insurance beneficiary so it is no longer Lori Vallow, that's damning evidence. And not only did he do that and kind of, in conjunction with his text messages, knowing that they're planning something. I mean, and this is why I just thought the opening was so artful. She did not go into every single one of these conversations and facts because it would have taken 3 hours long. It probably would have been clunky. It probably would have been confusing, kind of like my lives are sometimes. But she did it in a succinct way. It made sense. It got the points across. And now the evidence is just blowing through any defense that could be coming. And this is a very big one. That they not only were no longer the beneficiary, meaning Lori Vallow, but she's mad about it. And she thought that she was. Very key to me. Big time evidence for the prosecutors. I'm going to back it up just so you can hear it again.
I guess it should be 2019, not 2018. Lori to Chad. I just got the letter from the insurance company saying that I am not the beneficiary. It's a spear through my heart. Who do you think he changed it to? Brandon or probably Kay? He left nothing for JJ. Chad responded to Lori, wow, that's terrible. There's no way to find out.
And he left nothing for JJ, which at first may seem like she cares about JJ and she wants to make sure that there's something to help support JJ. But as we hear later, she just wants it to be yet another pass-through to her.
Lori responded to Chad, I might be able to see when I get his computer on Sunday. I could check. The emails sent to the insurance company. It will show change of beneficiary. He must have done it recently. Chad responds to Lori, it seemed you would have had to agree to the change. Maybe your name was forged. You should have a good paper trail to prove it.
Yeah, that's not how it works. When somebody else pays for a life insurance policy and somebody else has one, they don't have to ask the beneficiary if it's okay with them if they change them. That's kind of how life insurance policies work, but that's how Chad and Lori think it should work, I guess.
And again, these messages would have actually been sent on July 18th of 2019.
Correct.
So these messages were exchanged 7 days after the death of Charles Vallow.
That is correct.
Did these messages
And once again, your husband, your current husband dies, and 7 days later, you're having conversations like this?
indicate anything to you?
Part of their MO, right after the deaths of a loved one or a loved one and a family member, what are they doing? They're calling funeral homes, asking weird questions. They're checking insurance policies. They're going and getting married in Hawaii.
As to whether or not Lori seemed to know she was not the beneficiary?
Yes.
Did it appear that she had just found out she was not the beneficiary?
Yes.
Did you find any indication that Lori knew she was not the beneficiary of a life insurance prior to Charles' death?
Prior to Charles' death, no. Nothing.
Did the information you found lead you to believe she did not learn she was not the beneficiary until after Charles was deceased?
That is correct.
And looking at that next page, and again, I think it says July 18th of 2018. That should be 2019.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And are those additional messages that were located?
They are.
And could you indicate for the record who sent them, who received them, the date, and read them into the record?
So on 7/18 of 2019, Chad sent Lori a message. I love you. This is terrible, but it is probably another step in bringing down the Gadiantons, especially Brandon. Lori responded to Chad, nope, he can change it anytime he wants. He's the agent, and anyone can change the beneficiary anytime with their own signature. I'm thinking it must be Kay. Chad sent Lori a message. It will be interesting if he got it changed after he had 2 bullets in his chest.
Again, how callous is that? For a Christian or LDS pastor, writer, speaker, that's pretty brutal.
Was there an additional message located?
Yes. On 7/18, 2019 at 12:19 hours, Lori sent Chad a message. So I talked to the insurance company. He changed it in March. So it was probably Ned before we got rid of him. They can't tell me to who, of course, but it's done. I'll still get the $4,000.
Like, part of me is like, does she actually believe this? And this is when we talk about, mental health issues or insanity plea or whatever. Like, it was probably Ned before we got rid of him. And is the defense going to argue? Because maybe I would argue this if I was the defense. I'm not really understanding all the wild talk, but like maybe like, oh, they got rid of Ned and they didn't have to kill him when they cast out Ned. So they're not actually committing these crimes. They are legitimately trying to cast out demons, which they feel like they have done. But once Ned left, Hiplos came or whatever, and good luck getting a jury to buy that, especially with these kind of conversations right after it happened. Right after it happened.
$1 a month from SS.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the the actual form of what he just read. Let me review the record briefly here.
$1,000 a month from SS.
Thank you.
That does comport. Thank you. That'd be fine.
Okay,
I think a word was added.
let's have him reread that, please, so it's accurate.
I'm sorry. I'll still get the $4,000 a month from SS.
So at the end of the day, Lori Vallow says, well, even if I don't get the life insurance policy, I'll still get the $4,000 a month SS. Commonly stands for Social Security. It's just so bad. It's so bad. Like, that's what she looks at with her kids, is what she's going to collect from Social Security, and hoping that he would have left some money for JJ and his life insurance so that she could take it. That's where my mind goes.
Thank you.
That does comport. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking at the next page, do you recognize that message?
I do.
And can you indicate who had sent that message?
This is a message found on Lori's device, the Lolly time from Chad to Lori, dated 7/26, 2019 at 8:13 p.m.
And could you read it into the record?
Tonight, I figured out who I feel like. I'm a grown-up version of Harry Potter, who has to live with the Dudleys in his little space under the stairs. Every few weeks, I get to escape and have an amazing adventure and have amazing adventures with my goddess, lover. But then I have to return to my place under the stairs, feeling trapped. But I sense permanent freedom is coming.
So again, and they also talked about how their password was too many kids, but he feels like Harry Potter. If anybody's seen it, he sleeps under the stairs at his, cousin's house or whatever, and he's trapped and he can't do what he wants. He can't get his letters, blah, blah, blah. That's how he feels until he's let out with some adventures with his goddess, but he feels permanent freedom is coming. And again, all this stuff cannot be this coincidental. oh, they're planning something, life insurance changes, then he dies. Then they start talking about it and start making the next set of plans. Then they want to be together. He's looking forward to permanent freedom and not being trapped. Tammy Daybell dies. Then they have the kids that are just too much work and too hard. They die, and then they're getting married in Hawaii together, still spending the Social Security money from the kids. That's the timeline the state's setting up at this point.
And going to the next page, do you recognize that message?
Yes, I do.
And could you indicate the date that was sent, to whom it was sent, and by whom, and read the text into the record?
Yes. So on 7/30 or July 30th, 2019, Chad sent Lori an SMS message that read, I got the inspiration to go back to my original death percentages that helped us track Charles, Ned, etc. Tammy is very close. Her percentage has fallen steadily since Hiplos left. It is encouraging.
And we see in there the mention of Ned, who you've already indicated you were able to determine who that was. Does that additional name Hiplos or Hiplos, were you able to determine who that references to?
Yes, I was.
And who was that?
That was one of the first names that was associated with an evil or dark spirit associated with Charles Vallow was Hiplos.
Did you also locate messages between Alex and Lori on that device?
Yes, I did.
And do you recognize the messages on that screen or the page in front of you?
Yes.
Could you indicate who sent those, to whom they were sent, the date, and read the content into the record?
On September 3rd, 2019 at 10:02 a.m., Alex sent Lori a message. Network name is anti-layman. Password is the number 2, too many kids.
Yeah, there's the password, too many kids, which we knew was coming and has a very sad meaning when you think of what happened in this case.
Do you recognize the messages on the next slide?
I do.
Could you indicate who the sender was, the receiver?
It is a law enforcement officer that extracted them from the phones.
The date, and read the content into the record.
Yes, the message from Zulema Pastenis to Lori Vallow, July 2nd, 2019 at 7:52 p.m. Also, I was given instructions today to rip, tear, or burn the aura of Hiplos to let the body energy out so he can't re-enter. The next message is from Chad Daybell to Zulema Pastenis on July 2nd.
And this is where it gets really weird when they start talking about how they cast and how they deal with Hiplos and these demons and some of the back and forth. It's just weird. We'll listen to some more of it together.
2nd, 2019 at 8:35 p.m. I am very happy to find out these estates. You and Lolo have doing amazing work. Mother Earth is so grateful to you both. Thank you as well for your help with Hiplos. He is so very close. Chad Daybell message to Zulema Pastenis, July 13th, 2019 at 9:57 a.m. Hi, Zulema. Yes, I would be happy to give you a blessing, possibly this evening or tomorrow. It is crazy about Charles, but such a relief.
In that second message, through your review of accounts and phone records, were you able to determine who Lolo would be referring to?
Yes, I was.
And who was that?
Lolo was a nickname for Lori Vallow.
And that last message was sent on July 13th of 2019.
Yes, it was.
And Charles would have already passed away at that point.
That is correct.
Do you recognize the messages on the next slide?
I do.
And could you indicate who they were sent from, to whom, the date, and read them into the record?
Yeah, the following messages were between Lori Vallow and Zulema Pastenis on June 2nd, 2019. The messages range from 11:55 a.m. to 12:42 p.m. and they read as follows. Zulema to Lori. I'm ready. Lori to Zulema. Let's go now. Zulema to Lori. That is powerful. I'm still sending fire. Lori to Zulema. Yes, it is. I am blinding him with light. Zulema to Lori. Ooh, that's awesome. Lori to Zulema. I'm feeling it big time. Raphael is with us. Zulema to Lori.
This reminds me of like Maverick playing with his toys, saying like, okay, Dad, now Iron Man is shooting this thing out of his hand at you or whatever. And this is what they're doing, going back and forth, and people are dying. Like it's a very weird feeling and thought to think about how these texts are going back and forth and kind of how he is reading them, just thinking about them and like going back to what are they thinking? And again, these people are testifying here. That's why I think it's always interesting. Is like people that get caught up in this, and it's like so weird. It's so weird.
I feel him. Lori to Zulema. Did he leave? Zulema to Lori. I can't see him. I felt like I was chasing him because I saw me running after someone. Lori to Zulema. Get him. Zulema to Lori. Oh, I'm chasing. Lori to Zulema. You are amazing, lady. I love you. Zulema to Lori. I'm tired now. LOL. Lori to Zulema. Me too. I'll keep the light, abs, fire, gong till he's gone. Zulema to Lori, me too. I'm still sending it.
And with these messages that we've gone over today, including this one, are there sometimes emojis attached to those messages?
Yes, they are.
And these slides did not contain the emojis that were present in the originals. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Wild to me. I mean, it's just so weird. And again, I think that what's important, right? When you got to handle this stuff for a living as a lawyer, this is part of your job. Okay. Just to think about what the prosecutors are thinking right now. You have to play this stuff. You have to read this stuff. You have to show this stuff. You have to ask these questions. When they had Zulema and Melanie on the stand, the prosecutor is very respectful in how she asked these questions, but she did ask the questions. Who is Ned? What did you do when you were casting? Did everybody have their specific parts that they were supposed to do? Who would give out the parts? Who controlled the situation? Who told you what you couldn't say? What was possible? What did you think you could do? Knowing that the answers are going to be out of left field sometimes, but they have to present to the jury what was going on at that time and what a created spiritual warfare Vallow and Daybell were doing in order to control and manipulate and get what they wanted, remove obstacles and gain money and power. Saying that they were selected to the 144,000 and they were going to make Zion in Idaho or whatever. It's important for the state to present this, to present it in this way. All right, let's get to some questions here. Hit that like button again if you haven't already and subscribe. We are doing Vallow updates. We're doing stock updates. They're kind of depressing. They're tough. So I like when you guys come in here, we get to talk about it. You ask some questions. We, hit some highlights of the trial or some recap parts. We don't do every single part. We try to keep the most gory and horrible stuff out if possible. And of course, we've got some birthdays, which make it fun. Cam Miller, happy birthday. Coming this weekend. Rachel, hey Peter, love your channel so much. Even rewatching old episodes. Awesome. This Lori Vallow case is messed up. Do you think she will testify? I do not. I do not think she will testify. I don't see how she would have an answer for just about anything. But it is possible. People say that sometimes people with her personality would want to testify and tell their story. Problem is, and just like in one of the filings, it seemed like the defense wanted to use the mental health deficiency as part of their defense, and she didn't want to. They don't have not guilty by reason of insanity. I know that. But if you want to hear what they do have, go check out some of my old videos. Maybe you'll see Rachel in there checking them out too. Cheryl, speaking of cults, have you looked into the Danny Masterson trial? Scientology has a lot to do with that trial. I haven't. It's federal court, I think, or there's no cameras or recording, so it always makes it a little harder to follow. Even in this case, no cameras, it's a little harder, but at least we have the recordings to listen to later. Lee, is there a law against predators manipulating gullible, unsmart, impressionable people? Yes, there is that type of control. There is that coercion. That is a defense as well for certain people. Sometimes it's low IQ. Sometimes it's with a mental health deficiency or some kind of there are some people that actually can take tests to show that they are more gullible than other people. Sometimes that can be a defense if you're charged with somebody and they can charge the person that manipulated you to do that. Ann Bothwell Mabe. There is such a thing as magical thinking. Pretty sure Lori suffers from this. My brother-in-law has it. Super good liars in the Manic family. Chief, happy to be spending some of my birthday with the Lawyer You Know fam. Happy birthday, Chief. Thanks for being here. Robin L., who actually committed the crime to the children. So there is some speculation. Was it Chad? Was it Alex Cox? Is Lori's fingerprints on some of the tools found around there? I don't know if we know that yet. I always kind of thought it was Alex Cox, and I think that's what a lot of people think. I'm waiting to hear more testimony on how they're going to prove that. I don't think it was Lori Vallow, although she may have been there after the fact or something. Mrs. Escobar, we better watch out. Zulema may cast demons on us. Thanks, Lawyer You Know fam. Ellen, what time is the members live? The members live is tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm still not positive what the full topic is going to be. We're going to talk Last Kingdom. We're going to talk the movie Seven Kings Must Die. We're going to talk our favorite shows that we streamed, multi-season shows. So that'll be kind of fun. I'll come up with my top 5 list and some honorable mentions. You guys bring your top 5 lists so we can talk about that together. Let me know if you guys have any other ideas, either in this chat or in the members community page, of kind of one more subtopic I can probably throw in there if you guys think of anything. Pikachu, how long is the trial going to last? I believe they said 6 to 8 weeks. Valerie, wouldn't Lori think Chad was a fluke when his end of days prediction didn't come true? They, just in my experience, I don't know the answer to this, but I have seen and heard things like this in my lifetime, even dating back to Y2K. It seems like they always have an explanation. They always have a reason why. They always know what's going on until it's a catastrophic ending, whether it's here or I don't know if you guys remember the Branch Davidians story. There was a Netflix special on it, Waco, where Tim Riggins was the main character. But, you know, it ends like that usually, regardless of what happens when people miss predictions. Normie, Peter, have you watched the Yellowstone series? Yes, I have. I've watched Yellowstone 1883. I haven't watched one with Harrison Ford yet, though. April Lynn, Peter, what was the basis for the immunity for Zulema? A lot of people have been asking this. I don't know what the basis was, but they wanted her to come testify. And honestly, the question before about certain people that are easily influenced or that they feel like may have been coerced or brainwashed or, you know, forced into this kind of by being messed with or manipulated or duped. Maybe that had something to do with it. It is possible. And sometimes they are more likely to be influenced. They could have given her immunity based on those grounds as well. And many times when there's some kind of scheme, you want the biggest fish, you want the head of the snake, you want the most important, powerful people that were actually the ones driving the criminal activity. Because Zulema probably thought in her head that she was doing something good with these castings and whatever, but Lori and Chad allegedly knew what the end game actually was. Kathy, can you ask questions if you're not a member? Yes, you can ask questions in this video if you're not a member and join all that stuff. The members only live is just for the members. We don't do any legal topics. We don't break down any cases. All that stuff is for everybody always, for the subscribers, for the viewers. That's why we have the channel. The member stuff is just a little bit of extra stuff for them. I'm going to give a code to get the merch website early. And it's usually more personal stuff, movies, TV shows, golf, whatever. So that'll be the members only live. Nicole, both of these cases are hard to digest. Peter, I appreciate your input and happy birthday to all the recent Aries. They are really hard to digest. They are really hard to talk about. It's kind of nice to have like a comfortable community that you talk about a lot of these cases and a lot of this difficult stuff with together. I think that makes it more bearable. Again, like I said, this is not something I watch every day. I don't watch them in bulk. I'll watch pieces here and there, different clips, different parts. I'll fast forward through some of it when they're talking about some of the stuff I just don't want to take my day listening to at this point, especially doing multiple cases like this at once. Brian, have you covered the Idaho murders? Yes, we've done a ton of videos on Kohberger, on the Idaho 4, dating way back to before they even arrested Kohberger. As soon as some lawyers got involved, I talk about what it's like for lawyers to represent victims in situations like that. We've done a ton on that. So I encourage you to go check out that playlist. And there will be a lot more to come here in the next month before we get to June and that preliminary hearing. Tina, why is Chad's lawyer in the courtroom? It's open to the public. He's allowed to come listen. And I'm sure he's now figuring out exactly what is happening. There was something I was going to say about that. Oh, and on Instagram and Twitter, take a second, give me a follow on there. @TragosLaw is my handle, because the Idaho 4 stuff, we post a lot about that on there. People have sent me clips and things that are updating there. And when new information comes out worth updating for, then I will, of course, do a video updating it. Our second podcast dropped on Monday about that cozy trial about the plastic surgeon that allegedly murdered a lawyer literally in my backyard. Incredibly sad story as well. And we're going to drop a new podcast every Monday, Pete and I. Nicole Wheeler, are the lawyer you know Yetis available? I believe there will be something like that. I don't know if they actually are a Yeti, but something like that on the site. The couple that we gave away for the 200 subscriber celebration, those were custom ordered Yetis that we made. I'm sure we can get our hands on some more or put something like that on the website very soon. All right. We are getting up to that hour mark. I appreciate everybody joining me. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. It helps for anybody that is interested in this topic to come out here and check it out. Susie, how do you become a member? There is a join button in the video description. I believe it's difficult to do on an iPhone. I think you can do it on the website, or like even if you're on the YouTube app, if you go into the website and actually sign into it, I think you can do it that way. But yeah, there's a join button in the video description. What's a Yeti? This is a Yeti. So I actually have one that somebody made for me. See how it says Yeti on there? And it's lawyer, you know, this one was ordered by Dave, one of the lawyers in our firm, and he put Peter G. Tragos in it. I give him a hard time since my middle initial is in fact L, but I can't blame him because everybody in my family is named either Peter or George. All right, we've got a couple new members here. Java Cat, welcome just in time. And Eve Lucky. Oh, the Harrison Ford one was 1923. Yeah, we're going to talk a lot. We're going to talk a lot about shows. I think that's the right forum for that. All right, you guys are the best. I appreciate it, even under difficult topics, that we can come here, we can learn, we can get through it together. A lot of you are going back to Letitia Stalk's case now. I'll catch up on that one later, and we'll talk more about it later this week. Join the membership crew if you want to before tomorrow, so we can hang out a little bit more during the live tomorrow afternoon at 3:30. Other than that, I'm out. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok at Tragos Law is our handle. And don't forget to listen to the Lawyer You Know podcast featuring new episodes every week. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, the Lawyer You Know.